Ever watch a squirrel burying a nut, like it's planning for the future? Or even just a lizard basking in the sun? It just seems instinctual, right? Automatic even. But what if I told you that hidden in those simple behaviors are clues to something way bigger? Like the very building blocks of what lets us make choices, what makes us, well, us.
It's true. It's easy to dismiss those behaviors as just, well, animal instincts. But there's a surprising amount of complexity going on under the surface.
That's what we're diving into today with Michael Tomasello's The Evolution of Agency.
It's a fascinating exploration. He really digs into how agency, that ability to make decisions and act on them, how that evolved from the simplest creatures to us
And
humans.
it's not just another animal behavior book.
Yeah. No, not at all. Tomasello, he really focuses on the how, like how individual organisms actually make decisions. It's a perspective we don't always get in, say, typical evolutionary biology.
So where does he start? I mean, is a squirrel deciding where to bury an acorn really making a decision, like in the same way we do?
Well, he starts by looking past the whole stimulus and response thing, like a Venus flytrap snapping shut.
Right, that
Yeah.
classic example.
Exactly. But even something as simple as that tiny worm, C. elegans. Ever heard of it?
Can't say I have.
Well, it's incredible, really. This worm, it has a grand total of, get this, 302 neurons. That's it.
302 neurons. Wow.
Exactly. Makes you appreciate the human brain a bit more, right? But even with those 302 neurons, it's doing something more than just reacting. It's not just a Venus flytrap.
Okay, so what's the difference?
Think about it like this. Imagine a dog chasing its tail. It has a goal to catch the tail, right? It takes action, the chasing part. And then it adjusts what it's doing based on feedback. How close is its mouth getting?
So it's constantly evaluating.
Exactly. Tomasello argues that even simple organisms have this kind of basic feedback control organization going on.
Interesting. So are you saying that even a lizard is basically like a tiny thermostat making decisions? That's kind of wild.
In a way, yeah. They have a reference point. They can sense their internal state. And they take actions to keep things stable.
But what does that even mean for their daily life? Like, does it help them decide what to eat?
It's not quite as complex as deciding on lunch, but it definitely shapes how they experience the world around them. Tomasello talks about this thing called the experiential niche. Think about wearing noise-canceling headphones. The world kind of shrinks down to just what you can hear, right? Well, for a lizard, their goals are their headphones, in a way. A hungry lizard and a full lizard, they're not going to see a beautiful sunset the same way. The hungry one, its hunger kind of tunes out the beauty.
So a hungry lizard is going to be way more interested in, say, a juicy beetle than a pretty sunset. It's like their goals are shaping what they pay attention to.
Exactly. And there's another piece to this. Lizards, reptiles in general, they can learn.
You can.
Oh, yeah. They
Okay.
learn to connect certain actions with good things or bad things. And that learning, well, that fine-tunes their decision-making even more, all within that unique little world they experience.
Okay, so we've got lizards. They have goals. They make decisions. They learn. That's already way more complex than I think a lot of us realize. But it still feels kind of basic compared to, say, a squirrel. Like you see those squirrels in the park, darting around, figuring out how to snag the best acorn. What changed as we moved from reptiles to mammals?
Now we're getting to the good stuff. Think about squirrels for a second. They're not just chilling out in the sun like our lizard buddies.
Right, they always seem so busy.
Exactly. They've got these crazy social lives, got to navigate those treetop cities of theirs, and let's be honest, sometimes it looks like those little guys are running the whole park.
They do have a certain air about them.
I know, right? And that takes some serious brain power. They've got to be operating on a whole other level.
So are you saying squirrels have executive function? Like a tiny little CEO living in their brain, making power moves with acorns.
Okay, that image is amazing, but you're not far off. Tomasello, he points to three main things that make up this mammalian executive function.
Hit me with it.
First up, you've got flexible motivations. Unlike a lizard who's basically thinking, am I warm enough? Or, ooh, tasty bug, a squirrel. They can be motivated by stuff that's way off in the future.
Like hiding nuts for winter. There's no way a lizard is planning that far ahead.
Exactly. That long-term thinking, that's a classic sign of those fancy, flexible motivations. Then, on top of that, mammals have gotten this major cognitive upgrade. It's like their mental RAM got a huge boost.
So they can juggle more information.
Exactly. They can hold on to all these different bits of information at once, compare options, make those smart choices.
So it's not just reacting to whatever seems best right now. They're thinking ahead, strategizing. It's like they're playing mental chess with those acorns.
They really are. And here's the third part, the one that's often overlooked: play. Think about those young squirrels chasing each other around. They're practicing those awesome squirrel skills.
Honing those net hiding techniques.
Exactly. What looks like fun in games is actually crucial for them to develop those decision-making abilities. It's on-the-job training for master nut stasher status.
Wow. It's amazing how much goes into something as simple as a squirrel burying a nut. They're putting my planning skills to shame, I gotta say.
Right. And it gets even wilder as we climb that evolutionary ladder. Let's talk apes, for example. They're on a whole other level. Tomasello calls it rational agency.
Rational agency. So they're not messing around.
Not even a little. We're talking about apes who can reason logically, understand cause and effect, even strategize in their social lives. Kind of like how we do, actually.
So they're not just strong and smart, they're sneaky smart.
Mhm.
Makes you wonder what they're really thinking when they look at us. Speaking of sneaky, though, I've seen videos of chimps pulling some pretty shady moves on each other, like pretending they don't see a treat so another chimp doesn't try to grab it. Does that tie into this whole agency thing, too?
Absolutely. Apes understanding other apes' intentions, even manipulating them, that's a direct result of their rational agency. They're using their logic to figure out what another ape might do based on its goals. It's like they're playing a whole different level of chess.
It's like they've got this whole soap opera going on
Mm.
with alliances and betrayal, all because they understand each other's motivations so well.
That's a great way to put it. And that social intelligence is key for them, especially with how complex ape societies are, all those hierarchies and alliances.
Okay, so apes are obviously very intelligent creatures, but we humans, we took agency to a whole other level. We build these incredible things, create art, debate complex ideas, even have podcasts about it. What was that leap? How did we go from ape-like rational agency to human agency? So apes are basically pulling off these Machiavellian mind games in the jungle, but we're over here building rockets and writing symphonies. Seems like a pretty big gap to bridge. What was the game changer for humans?
You're right, it's huge. And for Tomasello, the key difference boils down to this. Humans, we're built to collaborate. We can form shared goals and work together in a way no other animal can.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Well, yeah, but on a much deeper level. He calls it joint agency. Think about it. I've got a team of engineers designing a spacecraft, or an orchestra playing a symphony. Could any one person pull that off on their own?
No way.
Exactly. It's like we can merge our intentions, our efforts, and become this kind of superorganism.
Wow. So it's our ability to work together that
Yeah.
really sets us apart. But that takes a lot of trust, right? Like, what happens when someone doesn't pull their weight or tries to hoard all the acorns, metaphorically speaking?
Good point. And that's where our very human systems of social norms and morals come in. We've developed all these ways to regulate collaboration to make sure everyone contributes, everyone benefits. We internalize these rules, and we even feel bad, guilty even, when we break them. It's like this invisible glue holding it all together.
So it's not just about being smart, it's about being socially smart, understanding the rules of the game, playing fair. But how did that even come about? It's a big jump from apes fighting over bananas to humans building cathedrals together.
Tomasello thinks early humans, they face this unique challenge: hunting big game together. Try to imagine taking down a woolly mammoth.
Yikes.
Exactly. Way too much for one person to handle. They had to figure out how to coordinate, how to trust each other. Basically, if you want mammoth for dinner, you better learn to work as a team and fast.
So the pressure of the hunt, the need to survive, it pushed early humans to develop this joint agency.
That's the idea. And it wasn't just about coordinating their movements. They needed this whole new level of social intelligence, understanding each other's roles, anticipating actions, making sure everyone felt like they were contributing fairly. Actually, it's a lot like making a successful podcast when you think about it.
Hey, we make a pretty good team, but I see what you mean.
Yeah.
You need those diverse skills, clear communication, and yeah, that feeling that you're all in it together. I imagine if you're out there hunting a mammoth, you better trust the people next to you.
Exactly. And that need for fairness, that trust, that sense of shared obligation, that's where we see the early seeds of morality and social norms. It's not just individual smarts anymore. It's a shared understanding of right and wrong, of what's expected in a group.
So this whole journey of agency, it's not just about bigger brains or fancier tools. It's about a fundamental shift in how we connect with each other, how we see ourselves as part of something bigger.
Right.
We went from these solo acts to this amazing orchestra of human interaction.
And that's the truly mind-blowing part of Tomasello's work. It shows us that our choices, even our thoughts, they're all connected to this long, incredible evolutionary story. From those tiny organisms reacting to their surroundings all the way to us, building civilizations and pondering, well, everything.
It's really quite humbling. We take for granted how easy it is to make decisions, but it's a pretty incredible gift. This culmination of millions of years of evolution, something we share with every living thing in a way.
It is. And that brings us to what might be the most fascinating question of all. Where do we go from here? How will our ability to collaborate, to share intentions, even build on each other's knowledge, how will that shape the future of humanity?
What a thought. It makes you really stop and think about the choices we make every single day.
It really does.
Well, that's about all the time we have for today. Thanks to everyone for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep those brains buzzing.